From Chicago, we welcome you to another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. As some of you know, we've been calling it Heartland at Home since the pandemic began, and we've been out of the studio. This is number 61 for the week of July 24th. We're going to talk film, we're going to talk music, we're going to have a really good time. Stay tuned here for the next hour. Good morning, Katie Hogan. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. I'm, as we speak, out of town. This show will be broadcast on July 24th, but a couple of us will already have left Dodge by that time. So
call us Dodge?
Yeah, get out of Dodge.
I know.
So the good news this week was I finally got my excessive COVID haircut. Working on getting used to that, and really looking forward to being out of town. So, and figuring out how to do a program today that doesn't make us sound goofy on timing.
I don't admit to ever sounding goofy.
Yeah, I know. Do you have any good news for us today, Michael?
Well, I have sort of a projection of good news to come. I did take a fall a few weeks back. I had it hit my shoulder or wrenched it. I've got the news from the MRI, and I'm going to have arthroscopic surgery, just like a lot of pitchers and quarterbacks. And it's going to mean 6 weeks with a sling where I can't move my arm. But I try to always take what may appear to be a negative, turn it into a positive. And I am actually looking forward to reading, to writing, stretching, talking, thinking. So I'll try to come up with some good stuff over the next 6 weeks and be sharing that as we go.
I'm here to witness that Michael does, in fact, turn the possibly negative into always a positive. So all power to you. One thing that we didn't mention is we've got two great guests today, starting with our return guest by Floyd Webb of Black World Cinema, and our buddy and collaborator, James Porter, who wrote a great review of Summer of Soul. And we're going to talk to him about that movie. Well, we have a couple of environmental, we have the ongoing environmental crisis, and that unfortunately will not take a break while any of us take a few days off for vacation. There were disaster floods in Germany a week ago. People died suddenly and without warning. The fires in the West are continuing. Buildings collapsing again in Florida. We will have someone in August talking to us about the New York Times article that upset so many people when they were referring to the war between the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. We're going to get somebody who knows and talk more about that. But basically, let's keep our eye on the ball, folks. The environment and climate change, it's around us. It's what's
a real
happening.
deal. Another real deal is what's going on over voting rights. And before we all left town, there were 9 protesters arrested at the Senate. Remember that on January 6th, a lot of people weren't arrested who went into the chambers, so to speak. But do have a situation.
This was a peaceful demonstration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we included the head of the Black Caucus, Joyce Beatty of Ohio. And they called for an end to the filibuster rule to pass the For the People Act. Hopefully in the intervening week, some of you connected with the John Lewis Good Trouble actions across the country on behalf of maintaining our democracy. This is very serious stuff. We not only have to be getting ready for the 2022 elections, but we have to do whatever we can to get this For the People Act through. It's kind of outrageous how forgetful so many Republicans seem to be about the history of this country and the actions that continue today that disenfranchise people.
You are so right. Michael, you hipped me to something that you saw about the Chicago and the Sierra Club versus Bobby.
Yeah, here's what my little environmental report while I was reading away. I did catch a glimpse of a news report that there's a new report coming out of Chicago and garbage collection that will stress more recycling, because a lot of people say, why bother recycling? They don't do it anyhow, And I always tell my kids, look, we're practicing for what we need to do in the long run. So let's stay tuned on what's going on in Chicago. And I did read a piece about the Sierra Club challenging or questioning the bottlers of pop like Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, these kind of things, over their false claims that all of their plastic bottles are 100% recyclable. Not true. So all these corporations that pretend to do good, we're glad they're at least pretending. It's better than what they used to do, but there's a long way to go.
Not sure about that.
Making it real. Well, we can call them out when they say one thing and do another, just like this, the Sierra Club's report. You can find it if you go to the Sierra Club. I'm
going to count on you to tell me. Speaking of,
I can count on you. What do you mean? You're going to count on me?
We count on each other. Also in Chicago, we've got a lot of people talking about the crime, and not just the crime as we have always talked about it, statistics and how many people got shot and this, that, and the other, but also kind of the nature of crime these days. There was a kind of inflammatory, I'm going to say, editorial written by Hermione Hartman of Indigo. She's the editor of Indigo, called "Chicago Crime is Out of Control." I want to invite our readers, our listeners, to read that. Look it up, Indigo.
Listeners and viewers.
Yeah, I find it challenging and worth debate, quite frankly. And I don't think we're going to solve the crime problem in Chicago without considering some of the things that she raises. That debate probably won't happen on mainstream media because people are too chicken blink, blap, blurt. In weeks to come, I'm going to keep asking people. Floyd Webb of Black World Cinema and Black World Cinema TV has an online event called Black Militancy and Revolution in Cinema, which has already begun and continues into September with Sunday afternoon screenings at 3 p.m. and discussions following.
Floyd Webb, I was hanging out with our pal Peter Kuttner, and he told me about your new project. So it's been a while since we saw you. The last time was in the studio. We were talking, I think, gun control. How about telling us a little bit about your current project and all the exciting films that you've got coming up for the masses to view?
Okay, well, after this past few years, especially the past 4 years, and the level of, the level of activity, the number of activists, I've been curious about, what people think, how people learn about struggle, about what people have seen, like a lot of stuff has been presented in cinema. A lot of things haven't been really shown. Then at the beginning of this year, we get, as a tail end to the whole Black Lives Matter thing, you get this film, like, this militancy becomes a commodity. So they make this film, Judas and the Black Messiah, and which is like a telling of it's putting forth the FBI narrative that the Black Panthers are as bad as Ku Klux Klan, but they use Fred Hampton as an entry into this negative narrative, right? Because the film's not really about Fred, right? Right. The film doesn't go into anything about Fred. What they do is they take like a bunch of expensive reenactments of like YouTube videos, because you never really see anything outside of where Fred came from. I mean, all of the very important things. Sure, you can make a film any way you want to, but they want to sell this as a politically, as a film that represents militancy. It's like a sign of the times, but it's really not. What it is it's sort of a backwards push, because I couldn't believe that the stuff that they had in the film never, the things where they have this woman sits in a window and initiates a gunfight with the police, right? Another cop is laying on his back begging for his life, and a panther shoots him in the face. This stuff never happened.
Exactly.
Right? So why is it even fictional? Why is it even necessary to make it fictional? Why? Because how does the guy recruit O'Neill? He says, the Black Panthers are as bad as the Ku Klux Klan. And they spend the rest of the thing, I'm paying attention, right? I'm not being wowed by the, about the fancy berets and all the leather jackets, right? I'm not into the fashion sense, right?
Although at the time it was fairly compelling, the berets and the black.
It's still compelling. It's still compelling. But see, that's the issue. Change comes about by mass movement, not by fashion. You know what I mean? It ain't, huh?
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like, sure, we're still wearing berets and leather jackets, but that's not stopping the police from killing black people.
I need a new leather jacket. I need a new black leather jacket. I'm gonna look.
I need a new one too. I need a new one too. But anyway, the films, right? So talking about the films, so I decided to do something. They ran this film for Academy Award. I was like, why are they running this film for Academy Award? It's it's about a snitch. And I just remembered John Ford's film, The Informer from 1935, which was about the Irish Rebellion. And I said, so that's the deal. So I decided I'm going to screen The Informer with an Irish filmmaker and scholar and do a back and forth with him, doing sort of like a, not a comparison, but looking at the two movements and looking at what I call a culture of betrayal. Well, I didn't call it that. Amilcar Cabral called it that. When Amilcar Cabral spoke at the funeral of Nkrumah, he talked about that, about how our movements are often sold out and how that comes about and where our consciousness and where we fail in our consciousness in not recognizing that, right? So I decided to do 3 films. The first one was, the first one is The Informer, 1935 by John Ford.
Which will have shown last weekend.
Which would have shown July 18th.
Yeah.
The next one, 2 weeks later, is going to be Uptight by Dashin. I think Dashin got blackballed, didn't he?
You tell me. I wanted to ask you about this.
Yeah. So he did a remake of The Informer with a that takes place in Cleveland in the 1960s, in the middle of the civil rights movement. And the third film is called Captain Thomas Sankara, about the president of Burkina Faso, who was assassinated by his best friend, who was considered the Che Guevara of Africa, right? He was doing all these incredibly progressive things in Africa, and his best friend got with the imperialists and took him out.
Tell us, Floyd, a little bit about Sankara, because I think I read in your material that he's more well known in Africa than Nelson Mandela. And that was a new one on me, and I'm looking forward to seeing the film. But give us a bit on it.
Well, it's funny you say it, because I was over at Sweetwater Foundation the other day, and one of the kids there was reading Thomas Sankara on women. I was really impressed, right? On the South Side, somebody's Sankara was a military officer, right? And he launched a coup in 1983 and took over Burkina Faso.
And renamed it.
And he renamed it the Land of Upright Men.
Yeah.
The Land of Upright Men. This guy had a program, his first thing was to get Burkina Faso out of the World Bank and to become self-sufficient in agriculture. He wanted to remove, he wanted agrarian self-sufficiency. So all of his domestic policies were focused on preventing famine, right? And he prioritized education, public health by vaccinating 2 million kids against meningitis, yellow fever. But before that, like 18 to 15,000 kids died annually from those things, if you can believe that. He outlawed female genital mutilation. He outlawed forced marriages and polygamy. He appointed women to high government positions. I mean, the dude was just incredible. He was incredibly progressive. And now here's where the trouble came. He encouraged the prosecution of officials accused of corruption and counter-revolution and lazy workers. They had people's tribunals. I mean, he was an admirer of the Cuban Revolution, but And you know, he got some criticism from Amnesty International, but you know, it's like the guy's trying to bring his country out of being dependent on the imperialist nations, from being dependent upon France and all of the other European countries. And you know, and how he does that is, you know, it's everybody ain't going to agree with it, but that's the thing. So I mean, I actually met Sankara because I used to go to the film festival. That's another thing he did. He put an emphasis on culture, and he set up an African film festival, right? That was unlike any. There had never been an African film festival like this.
You met him over there in Burkina?
I met him several times. He used to have us to dinner every time we went. Yeah.
Damn, hombre. Yeah. That's impressive.
Oh, wait. We were trying to get him to come. We were trying to do a sister city thing with Burkina Faso and Chicago, and he was supposed to come. He was supposed to visit Chicago to meet with Mayor Washington.
Yeah, Mayor Washington was very into the sister cities.
And they both died around the same time, within like 4 or 5 months of each other.
Wow.
Floyd, you got a long list of films that I had never heard of, a lot of them. I did see Lumumba. I think you've already shown that. I don't know if that's on the...
No, not Lumumba. I don't have... It wasn't Lumumba, was it? Nah.
Yeah, that was it down somewhere on your website. But what I'm asking about is...
Yeah, yeah, on the website. Yeah, sure.
On the film that you're going to show called Ice by Robert Kramer.
Oh, yeah, Robert Kramer.
That piqued my imagination because I knew him when he worked at the Newark Community Union Project. And I remember seeing it with a lot of SDS people, and they were freaked out. And yeah. I didn't understand it. Tell us a little bit about why you chose that film and what's it about.
Well, you know, with ICE, these are things that I've all had experience with, right? ICE showed at the Music Box, I think it was. I think it ended up at the Music Box like almost immediately after Fred Hampton died, right?
Fred.
After Fred was assassinated. This thing, I think it was the spring. I think it came out in the spring of 1970. And I went to see it. Yeah, it was, because it was really surrealist. It was really like, in a way, you know, it's not like a straight linear narrative film, right? It's like a series of statements. It's a series of propaganda. You know, where all of these underground revolutionary groups carry out these attacks against officialized fascist regime in the United States, you know, while dealing with their internal struggles, which is what we were doing. So it ends up, for people that don't know what's going, for people that weren't participating in the movement, I think it was really, I think it was really too surreal for like lots of people. But I think it's worth a review. It's worth going back and looking at, right? I was fascinated by it when I first saw the film, you know, and matter of fact, I knew some people who had worked on the film, and they told me, yeah, man, where are they working on ICE? Because I just met, you know, I just met the people that were working on, in '69. I met the people who were working on the Fred Hampton film, and I was, you know, so I was hanging around people, and I was hearing things, and this name ICE was coming up constantly.
So Floyd Webb, can we, before we lose the thread, can we let people know how they can link up to and participate in the Black Militancy and Revolution in Cinema series that you have started last week and are going through September with?
They can go to blackworldcinema.net, and there's a button on there. There's a green button right below the video that you first see, and it says register for programs, right? You just hit that register, that green button, and it'll take you, and you can sign up for the programs, and you'll be informed of all the screenings that are coming up. You know, and you can choose which ones you want to go to. It's free. We do ask for a donation. There's a donation button when you come to the screening, and if they want to donate, you know, hey, please do.
Beautiful. But, and after each film, you're doing a bit of a discussion.
We're doing a discussion. Yeah, we're gonna have various people talking. It won't be just me. The first one, we have Hugh O'Collan, who's a filmmaker from Ireland. He's at Galway University. The week after, the next screening 2 weeks later, Uptight, is Andre Seawood, who's a author and filmmaker from Indiana University in Bloomington at the Media Center. And I'll be announcing the other speakers as we get them. One of the speakers is going to be of a film from 1972 called Top of the Heap. And oh my God, my memory. I'm old.
You're trying to remember the name of your speaker?
Yeah. Well, no. I'm trying to remember the name of the director. I don't have.
Hey, that's okay. We'll find it out. But we're gonna fire a couple more quick questions at you because we're running short of time.
Sure.
And last time that you and I talked, or a number of times we talked about a film you were working on about a martial arts guy.
Oh, about Count Dante?
Count Dante worked in the Black community, was a white guy, was some hotshot martial artist. How's that film coming? So you still got
I got financing. Somebody from LA called me, and a company called Workaholic Productions called me.
So we'll hear more about that.
And we're on it. We've been meeting. It's not a documentary. It's going to be a 4-part series.
Oh my God!
Well, if you're using those SAG actors, let me know.
They want to, they want to do it like a Tiger King thing, which I was, so it's going to be interesting. I just want to get it done. I'm finished. I want to be done with this film and over with, So Count Dante. The search for Count Dante. They go to the searchforcountdante.com. Yeah.
So our next guest, who's probably in the waiting room already because we went a little long here, is one of our cohorts from the station who did a great review of Summer of Soul. Okay. And I'm just wondering if you've seen it. And
I have. And
what do you think?
I love it. I love it. I mean, all those little musical things that used to happen. There's so much stuff like that happened that was totally ignored by mainstream media.
Yeah.
But that had been going on forever. So much. I remember somebody telling me Jimi Hendrix was either there or someplace, but he was playing in Harlem around that same time. And his friend of mine's got pictures of him. She pulled out the pictures of him playing on the street in Harlem on a stage, right? And I thought that was part of it. But so many beautiful things like that happened. It happened in Chicago. It happened in parks. Where people just come out and there would just be just music. Sometimes spontaneous, sometimes planned the way this was.
So once again, for listeners and watchers, whoever catches this, we're talking with Floyd Webb. He's got a great series going on this summer. It's already underway. Floyd is from Black World Cinema, but the online event is called Black Militancy and Revolution in Cinema, which has already begun and continues into September. Look for it on blackworldcinema.net.
And one more thing. Yes. We have a streaming channel that's grown out of Black World Cinema and the Blacklight Film Festival called bwctv.tv.
Very good.
And we're doing progressive things. We're trying to create an alternative to all of the mainstream crap that where you can see to show you the kind of films that you wouldn't normally see. Documentaries that like Netflix and them will never show because of the voice, because of the voice, the tone of voice. So I can show stuff like ICE, once I get stuff licensed. So bwctv.tv, we do subscriptions, and the subscriptions are only $3.99 or $39.99 a year. Always have to have that $99.99 on there, right? That's right. Make us think they're getting the deal. Right?
Hey, Floyd, thanks so much for coming on today, and thanks for all your good work.
Okay. And I want to thank you for turning us on to some great films that we've never even heard about. And I think that, obviously there's some of that has to do with the suppression of Black culture in this country. But I'm amazed, and there's probably an awful lot more of them that we don't know about. So keep it coming, brother.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Good to see you guys. Okay,
take care. Kindly, and we'll be back with you. All right.
I want you guys' energy. My God, you guys are just up and boom, 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 boom. Okay.
We ate a lot of good food at the Heartland for 36 years.
Hey, I'm doing this.
That carbo load. Bam.
Okay. Take care, you guys.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You are listening to Live from the Heartland on WLUW 88.7 FM, Chicago Sound Alliance. Stay tuned for our next guest. And I love seeing the face of James Porter. Welcome back. So good to see you again.
Hello, everybody. Missed you.
You were instrumental. I mean, you were inspirational to us, I should say, because your piece in Rock and Roll Globe, which of course I don't generally read, but it's called "Are You Ready, Black People?"
Yes.
Summer of Sun Takes Us Higher, quoting Nina Simone, was enough to get me to go to the film itself. And I have to say, it was a pure joy to watch it in the theater at Cinema Landmark Theaters yesterday, and on the big screen. First time I've seen a movie, in all that time. So for those who haven't caught your review, you want to highlight what struck you about this remarkable film?
Well, besides the obvious fact that it was stashed away for a long time, I mean, it kind of struck me about how all that star power all in one place. And plus, when you think about it, the time that it came out during a very political time. Some folks say that the festival was partially a reason to get people off the streets, and something more constructive, but even so, it's like the performers, this is like the summer of '69. The performers were not letting you forget, the politics of the time. Even somebody as apolitical as, say, Gladys Knight and the Pips, you'll notice that when they went off the stage one by one, in a row, it's like the Pips were throwing power signs.
Yep.
Yeah. And Nina Simone was even more blatant. She was asking people were they ready to kill. And I was like, whoa,
I know.
Yeah.
This is more than a concert film. This guy, Amir Questlove Thompson, has put together a pretty impressive documentary about the era and the context under which this event took place. What do you learn from the non-musical aspects of the film?
Well, be honest with you, I'm a historian to begin with, so I kind of knew what was going on. If anything, it kind of put me in the context of New York, in that time, even though it was happening in Chicago and LA and any other area, any other major urban area, and even some rural areas. It was kind of, as I seen New York as it existed in that summer of '69. Harlem was kind of like, a hotbed for a whole bunch of things going on, and this kind of brought it all together. And it wasn't just entertainment. It was just like seeing people in the audience doing the boogaloo. There were like some serious, political statements being made, whether overt or covert,
I could not believe the huge role that Jesse Jackson played. I can believe it because I know him and I know him personally. And I hung with him during the Washington years here, and he is a camera hog and a publicity hog, just like everybody thinks he is. But there he was in New York, bringing the Breadbasket Choir there. I was pretty impressed with that. Ben Branch was part of that.
Chicago was fairly well represented in that movie.
Yeah.
One of the things that caught my attention, and I don't know much about him, but was Mayor Lindsay. Yeah, your take on him in the film? Showing up.
Man, I was frankly impressed. I mean, I don't like to admit that I didn't really know much about him, but they made him like one of the few Republicans who's worth a damn.
That's true.
And also what I liked about it, they made it sound like if he went to Harlem, it wasn't to get any votes. He went to Harlem because he was hanging there, And I was like wondering, how come nobody, this is a piece of history that I would have loved to have heard about earlier. I've heard his name bandied about, but I didn't know what he was all about. And for a Republican, I got to say, he kind of had it together,
Yeah. So we're going to just play a few little snippets of music, given that we get to, because it was a music film. So just right now, we were going to play the Fifth Dimension doing their Aquarius, because I thought their appearance and some of the things they said, you might want to comment on the Fifth Dimension.
Yes.
Just before we play it, and we'll come back with more. Go ahead.
Tell us about the Fifth Dimension now.
All right. The Fifth Dimension were this vocal group, this African-American vocal group, who originally conceived as like a Black Mamas and Papas. They eventually moved away from that, specifically since the Mamas and Papas basically broke up, like right around the time the Fifth Dimension was starting to come on. But they had a very pop sound, which wasn't really, well, I want to say it was one accepted because I mean, when it did come up, they did have the occasional hit on black radio, but in general, their audience is mainly like, white pop, easy listening guys, right? And I heard about one story, might not be true, maybe, about how they were like picketed at some show they were doing at college because, the black students thought that their sound wasn't black enough. Even if it wasn't black enough or white enough or what have you, it's like their performance in the movie was very entertaining. And I thought it was like really, really touching because I mean, Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr., the two members of the group who were interviewed, they were like very keenly aware of how much they stood out from the black mainstream, and they were like seriously, seriously touched that they got, that they had Harlem on their side, at least for an afternoon,
I loved that bit where they showed them watching it. I gotta say, James, I loved when they showed Pop Staples being interviewed by none other than Dinah Shore.
Yeah.
That
was during the crossover years.
Dinah Shore. I mean, she was a crossover gal too, which a lot of people didn't know about her. She had a lot of black guests for a white girl, a blondie like herself. That a lot of
Muddy Waters was on Dinah Shore's show.
Exactly. She was a very hip, I loved that. And Michael also caught sight of a friend of his.
Gene Barge was in. I just saw a little bit of Gene Barge in one of those bands.
Who was he?
He sure was, yeah.
Was he
and Wayne Bennett?
Sly? Michael, was he playing with Sly's orchestra?
He was playing with Operation Breadbasket.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right.
Tell our listeners who Gene Barge is. I know him from working in Andy Davis films with him, but I know he was a hotshot musician way back.
Oh, he was. I mean, he was like a sax player who was like around since the 50s. I mean, he played on like C.C. Rider by Chuck Willis. He played on all those Gary U.S. Bonds songs. And when he moved to Chicago, like in the 60s, 65, I want to say, he played on a lot of like classic chess recordings, like Wayne Dang Doodle by Coco Taylor. And he's been a part of the scene ever since. I mean, matter of fact, I used to go to the same barbershop as him. I used to love to hear him tell tales,
That's so cool. That is so cool. Do you think that Questlove has more of the Summer of Soul to release? I mean, since it was, what, you said 50 hours worth of film, do you think he's going to do a second or third go-round?
There should be. I mean, on the one hand, it's like, a lot of people going back and forth about how the spoken word bits kind of overwhelmed the music, and which is kind of true in some cases. I'm like the biggest Chambers Brothers fan, and they were like the first band on the show, and most of their songs kind of taken up by like spoken word clips and narration and video and what have you, and that was great for what it was. But I think it would be nice to see like the remainder of it if it were possible, because there were a lot of people who were in the movie, who were at the event, that didn't make the movie. Like, say, there's a group called Listen My Brother, this choral group in New York, who are now known as, they had like a young Luther Vandross in the group before he was even famous. So that would be great to see a little bit more footage, and plus Red Fox, Mom's Mabley, Willie Tyler and Lester, you saw them for a minute, but they weren't really featured. So
Willie
it would be
Tyler
good.
And Leslie were pretty darn funny for that little clip.
They were, yeah.
Really were.
How did you like the crowd shots? I mean, I was struck by those little kids they showed, a lot of them, but there was one in a sombrero. But just crowd shots were beautiful.
They
were. Oh, that was half the fun, believe me. I mean, just like in a similar movie, Watch Stacks, which I hope you've seen, the camera spent as much time dwelling on the audience as they did the performers. And like I said in the article, one of the most poignant, I love seeing the fashions, and I love seeing the fact that, I don't know who out there is familiar with the Boogaloo, but that was like, a very famous dance like in the mid to late 60s. And whenever you saw somebody dancing, in the audience, they were always doing that step, that side to side step. And they were doing it well too. That what stood out to me. But however, though, what I was going to say was about the audience shots. There was a really poignant shot where you saw like a white man with a black kid perched up on his shoulder. And it's not, no one explains why he's there or what he was about, but he was there and he looked like, like he was part of the scene, not like he was trying to like make a scene like a politician would. Like he really was like, down for the cause, whatever it was,
there's another review of the movie that you should check out, Carol Cooper. Did you see that on NPR?
No, I did not. NPR, you said? Okay, I'll check that out.
It's on NPR. I printed it up. It's called After a Violent Winter, the Summer of Soul was a musical moment of healing. But what I liked about your article, one of the things I liked about it, you're such a good writer, dude.
Well, thank you.
When you said the performers themselves, Sonny Sherrick, Wayne Bennett, when Stevie Wonder was drumming, Max Roach, attacking their instruments like rifles. I mean, there was absolutely no question of the emotion that these guys were all feeling in each and every one of those cases. I so appreciate you pointing that out, because it gave me chills. It gives me chills to think about it. Actually.
Right, and nobody was really half-assing it through the performances either. Because if you notice, it's like I think everybody, regardless of what they were doing, they kind of knew the magnitude of the event, even though it was basically forgotten for decades. I mean, because you didn't get when you saw like Sonny Sherrick or Stevie Wonder doing their thing. I mean, it's like, I mean, they really were. I mean, of course, they would have done their thing anyway because that's what they do. That's what they do. But you can kind of tell they were kind of spurred on by the audience, you know. And also too, the fact that that Sonny Sherrick played guitar for one of the few white performers at the event, which is jazz man Herbie Mann, you know, who had a huge black following. So
we're gonna take a musical break, and we're gonna have Mongo Santa Maria doing Herbie Hancock's Watermelon Man. But before we do that, can you address, James? Can you address the amazing span of music, Black music, Latin music, Caribbean music, African music? I didn't see Olatunji. I don't know if he's in there or not, but they had everybody in that, all spectrums.
Yeah, Olatunji was at the festival. He didn't make the movie, unfortunately. I mean, that was like, I say 180 degrees of the Black experience in music, as far as rock and roll goes, they missed Hendrix, but they got Sly and the Chambers Brothers. And as you can see from the crowd shots, I mean, they did well. I mean, Sly was hotter than Pistol at the time. If you notice, it's like...
Wait a minute. The line about Sly that I loved, Proto Prince or Practice Prince. Did you catch that in the film?
No, I did not. No. But I kind of see that.
Oh, his prowess, his musical prowess. I just really liked the way Sly looked in this film. Okay, one thing I got to get in here with you, James, before we close. I loved the women in this film. From Nina Simone, powerful, to the Mahalia Jackson Mavis.
Yes.
Duo. Excuse me, let me cough, you talk. And to finally the festival goer expressing how she felt seeing a sister play the trumpet.
Yeah. That movie's very integrated in a lot of ways.
Yeah, also let me ask you though, speaking of integrated, you have a great radio show off and on, a long time on WLUW called the Hoodoo Party, and
it's only off. It's only off because of the virus. I mean, as soon as we get back in that studio, we're on.
So my question is, you mix it up, whether it's the rockabilly, R&B, you mix a lot of genres together, and a lot of your hosts, I notice you have a broad spectrum of interest in music. When's the Hoodoo Party coming back? Do you have any news on that for you and me and Katie both when we get back in the studio?
When we get back in the studio.
We don't know
That's when. Don't know when, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard rumblings, but I can't say,
And one last thing before we let you go, your current writing project, is it your book or something more?
How's that book coming?
The book's ending. Book's coming to an end, and I mean, I know I've said that before, but it's like really lengthy. I just finished some liner notes for a blues compilation that should be coming out later and to be named later. And just kind of still doing things for the reader, and Streets Blog magazine. So, I'm still out there, it's what I do. So I do it.
Tell us about the name of your book. And I think it's Northwestern University Press is going to publish it.
That's right. It's called Wild in the Streets, Tales from Rock and Roll's Negro Leagues. And it's about Black people in rock and roll, not R&B, but rock and roll. And yeah.
James, it is so delightful to see you. And we are going to go out with Gladys Knight, Heard It Through the Grapevine. So dance your way into your very undecorated new apartment. We'll send you some.
You got it. Hey, thank you. Thank you.
On this beautiful day in Chicago, we want to thank you for listening, because for over 25 years, we have brought you live from the Heartland, now called Heartland at Home. Broadcast every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central from Chicago's WLUW 88.7 FM. Also streams live from WLUW.org. And it's archived on our channel at youtube.com/Heartland Media. In addition to being cablecast often on CAN TV, channel 27, we are now on Spotify. Our wonderful intern, Gwendolyn Brown, has figured out how to do it, and she's got us on Spotify and Google Podcast. So listen up. And we thank our team, Gwen Brown, Luis Mejia, Lynn Orman Weiss, and anybody else who comes back to us, whether it's James or Tom or anybody else. And in the meantime, we ask you to do good in the world.
The world needs all the good that we do.
All power.
Power to the people.